Seriously, thank you so much to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Your generous backing is truly awesome. It is how I manage to keep making this content and much more a reality. Every little bit helps keep me going, and it means I can keep providing you with content full time. A special thank you goes out to Lorena Giselle Garcia, Jamar Meeks, Martin Cabrera Pavez, Elena Sosadeco, Diego Navarro Lunares, Kay Fernandez, Rodolfo Fernandez, Lucius Lau, Taylor Hunter, Jackson Frazier, Allison Stalker, Munya Chison Week. Thank you all so much for your support. All right, well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of the ADC Podcast, and we have a very special guest, Mr. Jose Hernandez, or should I say Jose D. Hernandez, because, I noticed there's a D in there. So which one do you prefer?
Jose D, just because I think there's another animator in the industry with the same names.
Is it D for drawing? Is that why you have it in there?
That's a good one. I'm going to save it, but I'll take drawing.
D for drawing. Hell yeah. Oh my gosh, man. So take me back, man. How did we meet up? Like, honestly, I feel like we've known each other for a really long time. Maybe at least, 12 years, 13 years? It's been a while.
Longer. I think it was 15 because I think it was sometime in 2010 because it was towards my last year in college, and it was some kind of college thingy where we had to go to, I think, to the Fox studio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And there was sort of guest speakers or something like that happening, I think.
Yeah, it was that. It was something like that. Yeah, and then. Do you remember Kristen Robertson?
Yeah, Kristen. There's a few other people too. I think I met that day, I think shortly after that, we had clicked up. I think it was doing character design at the Animation Design Center, which is the school I founded back in '02, and then I think you were one of the OG people that I was teaching literally in my Redondo Beach place, right by the beach, right by the ocean. A lot of people don't know this, and I think you're one of the only ones to know. That place is crazy haunted, man. We had ourselves a ghost up in there, and I think did I leave one day and you were there by yourself and you were like, dude, there's something in here. What is going on?
Yeah, I remember because I think it was one time I was there at the place by myself and I was drawing and I'm like, well, why do I hear this tapping sound? Why did all of a sudden in the middle of summer it just got really cold in there?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to, do you remember Wee Man's Tacos?
Yeah, Chronic Tacos, I think. Chronic, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, there's something there. And on the way back, I was like, I don't know if I really want to go back in. Bro. Especially because it was getting dark, too. I was like, what if I see something?
Bro, so, when I first moved there, the people that had been living there were like, hey, just so you know, we're not trying to scare you or anything, but there used to be a lady who, owned the building. It used to be, a house that got cut up into, apartments, whatever. So she passed away, I want to say the 70s or something like that, a long time ago. But she always took care of the place, She was just very much very proud of her property, whatever. So years later, her daughter, just was like, I'll just turn this into rentals, whatever. It's right by the beach. People love it. So they're like, hey, so, if you hear some stuff, don't be scared. It's just the caretaker lady, so. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm like, that's weird, So I'm setting up. This is the first night I'm staying in my new place. And at the time I was living alone. I don't think I was even dating or anything at that time. And I was so tired. I like laid everything in my place. Like, stuff was everywhere. Drawing desk is everywhere. And I had an air mattress because my bed was being delivered like maybe like in 2 days. So I just laid the air mattress in the middle of like the living room, and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. So I just like laid on the air mattress and started like falling asleep. And I know like if you're on an air mattress, if like somebody walks and like steps on it, like you immediately go like boom, like the air like pushes you. So I'm laying on the air mattress, I'm just about to fall asleep, and I feel somebody like boom, like laid next to me, and the whole thing bumps up. And I like jump, and I'm like, oh, like, what the heck? I'm like, am I dreaming or something? Like, I felt like somebody's like there. I didn't feel anything like bad or any kind of like, bad sort of stuff. I remember like, I think I must have like did the sign of the cross and, just like, please God, like, keep you safe,
Right.
I think I did fall asleep too after that. So like nothing happened for like maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. I was super happy there, right by the ocean, like great neighbors. But every night I would come home and, this is when I had my bed. I would lay in my bed and like start to fall asleep. I'd like watch movies or animation and stuff. And every single night before I fell asleep, I would feel a person lay next to me. Like, just that feeling of like someone, laying in the thing. Nothing like crazy. Nothing ever touched me or like, like levitated the bed or anything like that. It just felt like I don't know, like just like a protective kind of spirit or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, so after that, I met, Katie, who like, we dated and, she later became my wife. But I remember we dated for 2 months and she's like, we should move in together. I'm like, all right, come, bring your stuff. Like, we're in love and, whatever. So, but I remember when she's bringing her stuff in, I said, hey, I don't want to freak you out. I gave her the same story. I said, like, you might hear some stuff or, something might move, but don't be afraid. Nothing's going to hurt you. She never saw anything or heard anything. And we got a dog, and the dog would sleep in our room.
Right.
And my bedroom would like face the hallway, toward the front door. And every night this dog would stick its head out and like growl at the freaking hallway. Like someone's there. And she's like, what is going on? She's like, is there something out there? I'm like, no, don't be afraid. It's just, it's the ghosts, whatever. Like she's chill. But after that, my soon-to-be wife moved in, everything stopped. I feel like she just moved on and, she was bored with me, She probably saw you and was like, oh, who's this like good looking guy? She's like, I'm going to attach myself to him for sure. She likes Hispanic men. I know that, so.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think you're probably really chill when it comes to the ghost stuff because, I mean, I know our apartment was haunted, like where I'm living right now. When I first moved in, it was like stuff going on every so often. TVs turning on and off.
Whoa.
Like me, like shadow figures. Like it was really bad.
It's interesting, but they say like, for some people, either they don't move on or they don't want to move on. Like they just feel like compelled to stay in this life, which I mean, I admit too, man, like, everything's here, this is all we know. So it must be hard to have to suddenly like cross over, especially like if someone like, died under like bad circumstances and they're like, feel like they have unfinished business here. But I remember my dad would always tell me when I was really young, because I feel like he would always see things, He wasn't like psychic or anything like that, but I always felt he was like sensitive to that sort of stuff. And he would always tell me, he said, Mijo, just, don't be afraid of any of that stuff. Be afraid of the living. Those are the ones that can actually hurt you, and do bad stuff to you. You can handle the ghosts, you know what I'm saying? Like they're just former people, whatever, but they don't have a body anymore. They can't do anything, to harm you. So I think after that, like, I kind of had a different feel, for the paranormal and that kind of stuff. But I do feel that, man. I do feel like there's all kinds of like things that happen that are unexplained. Um, like literally us like working in animation, just like how'd that happen? That's a miracle in itself that like, I don't know where you're so let's go even further back. When you were you born and raised here? Did you come here from another country? Like what's your background with the US here? Because my family, my dad was born here, but my mom was born in Guadalajara. So, I was first generation here, but a lot of my cousins were, born in Mexico. What was your guys' story?
Well, my parents were both born in El Salvador. I was born in East LA, so I was like to make that claim because it is true. I was born in East LA. I didn't live there. I wasn't raised there. I was raised in the valley. There's still like that hardness that comes from being born there because it follows you.
Yep.
And I mean that in a good way because people from East LA are some of the toughest people in LA.
Very
Like
tough people.
I think everyone has like this misconception that people from LA are like shallow and fake, and I'm like, maybe the transplants with the true people from LA. No, we're for real.
Definitely.
We're hard. We're hard working.
Definitely. And it is such like a amazing melting pot of people. Like I grew up in Carson, and it was kind of amazing because like my dad's side was from El Paso, and but they all kind of like settled in Echo Park. Echo Park was like their spot, and I remember going to downtown LA, and it was just so magical, man. I mean, there's murals everywhere. It's like so much color and so much art. I mean, it was like, I feel like when I was little, they didn't like shield me from any of that. Like they wanted me to see like everything, and
Yeah.
I would stay with my grandma a lot out there, my dad's mom, and she didn't drive. And she really didn't like the bus either. So literally she walked everywhere. So she would like take me all over the place, like have lunch over here at this spot, go to the, Elysian Park, and so I feel like it was a really like amazing childhood. So where did you guys settle in the valley? Because the valley's a big place.
Van Nuys. I've lived in like the same few blocks throughout my life. Kind of like I just know the area in and out. Like even some of like the secret trails too.
Yeah, Van Nuys.
For those LAUSD kids.
Okay, so this is crazy. Like, so I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, just like you, and I never knew animation was made in California. I don't know why I never made the connection. I knew there was Disneyland and that kind of stuff, but I never like ever thought, like I never saw a studio, and later in life when I started working in animation, I'm like, the valley is like literally the mecca of like animation. Like every like top studio, or pretty much every top studio is in the valley. When you were growing up, did you know that? Did you know there was like an industry in the valley?
No, I didn't even know where it was.
Okay, so it wasn't just me.
I know as a kid originally I wanted, because I grew up with like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane,
Nice.
Rob Liefeld, like those guys were like legends to me.
Wow.
So I wanted to be a comic book artist, but I didn't know everything was so relative, and I think my style adapts more to animation. So there's where I kind of wanted to move into, but I know at one point I was like, maybe I got to move to New York to work at Marvel or whatever.
Right. And you're talking about was it the image boom that you're talking about? Like when they created their own little like independent brand. I don't say little. I mean, the thing is huge, but it was like McFarlane with like Spawn, Wildcats with Jim Lee, Wetworks with Will Portacio, I think too. Rob Liefeld did, I think, a few productions there.
Savage Dragon was one of them.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Did you ever remember a place called Extreme Studios? I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it was connected to Rob Liefeld and another comic book called Prophet Rob Platt or like, one of those other. In high school, I'm a few years older than you, but like in high school, my cousin was like crazy into comics too. He's actually the guy who gave me like Spawn #1, which growing up I didn't really like comic books. I thought they were kind of like looked a little cheap. But when he handed me the first Spawn, I was like, whoa, like what is this? Like this, glossy paper, beautiful artwork. And I was just like, dude, this is crazy. I mean, years later, I found out like, Todd was also doing Spider-Man. So, I went backwards, to see his stuff. But one day I'm just like chilling and I get a call from him and he's like, hey, like, do you want to go to Extreme Studios? And I was just like, you mean the comic studio? He's like, yeah. Like, he's like, I'm going to take you. I'm like, okay. I think I was like 14 or something at the time.
Right.
And, we all piled in his mom's car, we're all like, completely freaking out. I think I had like all my little like, comic book drawings and stuff, which were all like terrible. But like you, I loved what Image Comics was doing in particular. I think that like was the sonic boom in my heart that was like, damn, I want to do that. Or like, I want to be like those guys, But I remember I got to tour the studio. Photoshop was like very new at the time. Excuse me. And so they had like one person doing a little bit of Photoshop, but most of the color was being done with like markers, which like blew my mind. Like I'd never seen somebody like do such amazing marker work. I think I met the inker Danny Miki when I visited. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a real studio with like professional artists. And to me, that was like a little seed that was like planted deep within me. Like, okay, you could actually do this as like a living, and from where I was from in Carson, there's no such thing as being a professional artist, like the best thing you're going to do is work in like the docks, like bringing stuff in San Pedro. Or go to college, and do something with that. So there really was like no in between of like, hey, you're going to do something you actually like or you feel inspired to do. So was it that way in the Valley where you were growing up too? Like, was there anybody doing anything artistic for a living?
No, but you brought up something that kind of sparked something in me when I was in 6th grade. And I remember that's where I feel like the seed was planted for me. There was like a career day when I was in 6th grade. And I remember I had all these like, they give you like a little list of all these like places you're going to go. And I think CPR was one and Corridor or whatever that was.
Wow.
Custodian. And in one, I messed up and I ended up in the animation career room.
Whoa.
So I just stayed in there because I'm like, I don't care what the other thing was. Like I'm like locked in here. And I was like, I think when they were first coming out with like 3D animation too.
Wow.
I was like blown away. I'm like, I think I know what I want to do now.
Wow. That's amazing. And was anybody else in your family like creative? Like does anybody else draw, or like were you the first to like pick up a pencil and start drawing?
No, my aunts were like artists. Like some of them were like landscape painters, and
oh, nice.
some of them did like seamstress stuff, like dresses and all that. So, and I'll be honest, I think in my teenage years, I really wasn't drawing as much because I like after my mom got sick, I had like no vision going forward. Like I was just like skateboarding. I was out late, and I didn't even know if I even really wanted to go to school. But my brother kept drawing. Roger.
Yeah, Roger.
He was like doing some stuff, like just like letting his brain go all out. I was like, man, he's doing some really cool stuff. And I looked at my drawings, and like, they're all stiff. They're all just like facing like dead eyes. And I'm like, but I also kind of really like it because then I started to remember I really wanted to be like Eric Larson or Rob Liefeld. I know people crap on them all the time, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
they do. They're nicer now, but back then
yeah,
they would like, oh, he can't draw feet or he can't draw hands, and you know. But I mean, this guy created like some of the most iconic characters. I mean, anybody who likes Deadpool needs to be thanking Rob Liefeld for Deadpool. You know, I mean, what a
exactly.
huge, you know, I think he's the biggest. That's the biggest character of like all those guys who came out of that. I mean, I know the Spawn movie's coming, but I think Deadpool's like the number one, you know, character out there right now. So
Yeah, I mean that movie was big. I was like,
huge.
I don't even know how many. I think I saw it twice in theaters. I was like, man,
It's a good
this is
one.
what a movie should be, just like fun, you know, entertaining. I don't even care what the story is.
I kind of felt like it gave me the same feeling like when I first saw The Matrix, and I was like, it felt so different, you know, like where they had this like hyper violence, but it was funny, you know, it was like so weird to
Yeah,
see the two mixed together so well with like the character, like just, I have to admit, I didn't really read a lot of the Deadpool stuff in the comics. So like when I saw the character, but I was like, man, I don't really know the character that well. So when I started seeing like, you know, how his, you know, he's just so like, doesn't take himself seriously, which is crazy because he does have a very serious side to him. You know, there's some really serious things happening in his life, but he does it in such a way that it's like it kind of lightens, you know, how horrible, you know, some of that stuff actually is. But
yeah.
what a great character. I mean, like I said, I think Rob Liefeld, I used to see him even before the image stuff doing this is probably showing, you know, my age right now, but he used to do Levi's 501 commercials for the 501 jeans, and they had like literally like little spots with like different creators, and they had a spot of Rob Liefeld drawing like I think it was of like Spike Lee, and it was like him with a camera and like all these spikes coming off him or something. But it's really cool. It's a nice little thing to look up on YouTube later. But yeah, I think again, man, you know, like whoever inspires you to do something, you know, like where you feel like, man, I could do something that's like greater than myself, you know, where it's like I could be proud of like what I do for a living versus like, oh, I'm just another, whoever doing this or just another whoever doing that, you know, like something forgettable. Um, so like you get to what, like high school, are you thinking at this point like, okay, I like to draw. Are you drawing in high school, or did you have like anybody encouraging you like, hey, Jose, you should be thinking about this as a career?
I'll be honest, when I was in high school, I wasn't like I would doodle around, but I wasn't really drawing. I mean, I think I remember only once drawing the zombie, and the first time I ever drew a neck on someone. And the only reason why I say that is I remember my buddy Jason, he's like, man, that's a good neck you drew. And I was like, hey, I don't know what that means, but
And that was
and I think
that was the
and I think
beginning, right?
yeah, that was kind of like the beginning because I remember at the end of my 12th grade, I think we have to write like a essay or something like describing what we want to do like post college, and I think I wrote down comic book artist or something like that.
Oh, whoa. So you literally were like, hey, like, and at that point, like, you're still thinking comics, right? You're not thinking like animation or anything of that nature. So it wasn't until what, like, you graduated high school and then, like, you decided to what, like, go to an art college, go to like a non-art, like, what was that, like, experience like?
I mean, I think the thing with me is I didn't know how the system worked. I feel like if I could have avoided a good chunk of those community college years, I
Mm.
would have. I didn't need math. I didn't need any of that stuff. Like the only classes I was interested in taking were some of the art classes, and even then, some of those teachers were just brutal and boring. Like I
Wow.
think the best one was the life drawing teacher. I remember his last name was Goffredo. He looked a lot like Stan Lee or Geppetto. And he was, I think I would say he was the only teacher I learned anything from when I was at that community college. And then I
Wow.
transferred to CSUN. So there's where
Great
things
school.
really started rolling. Yeah, and I noticed it didn't really have like a comic book like program, but they had animation.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first day of class, I was discouraged because my teacher was like, if any of you think you're going to become an animator, well, good luck, because they have not done traditional animation here in like 20 years. And
Oh,
I was,
whoa. Wow.
oh,
That's like a shot in the heart right there.
yeah. And I was like, well, then why did I sign up for it? But also, then I didn't know what a background designer was. I didn't know what a storyboard artist was. I mean, it was my first day.
Wow.
I was completely ignorant to the whole thing. I didn't know anything about frames or timing, nothing. And
Wow. Just like
I
a
was at
raw
a
piece of clay,
disadvantage.
right? Like a raw piece of
Yeah,
clay ready to get molded. Wow. And
yeah.
like, did you have to pick, like, so you just joined the animation program and what? It was just going to be like you do a film or like what was the program like? Like what did you have to do?
I mean, I think the first year is just learning how to bounce the ball on just like a lot of simple exercises. I think it was towards like the last few semesters we had to do. I think it was yeah a short film, but I remember I never did mine because I was like, well, I could either finish this. It's gonna look bad because I don't really got my skills up to date. Or I talked to the teacher and I'm like, can I just work on my portfolio instead? Because I feel like I think at this time I was interning at Cartoon Network and I had met my buddy Ray Santos and I had seen his portfolio and I was like, he was an intern too, and I was like, man, this guy looks like he can get a job tomorrow if he really tried.
Whoa.
And I look at
Wow.
mine and I'm like, and this stuff looks like student work. I hate it. It sucks. And I was like, I'm gonna talk to my teacher, like the lady who runs the program. I was like, can I just work on my portfolio because I just want to focus on getting a job. Like I think the storytelling will come over time.
Right,
And she's like,
right.
oh, yeah, yeah. At this point, she really liked me. She didn't like me when I first started. She thought I didn't have it. But then she started seeing my growth. And then I started learning how to stylize because I was like, okay, so I think what they want to see is what's on TV, not what I can do right now. Because what I can do right now is like horrible. So I started putting one and two together, and I'm like, okay, stuff right now kind of looks like Chowder, like Camp Laszlo. Let's try to aim to draw something more similar to that. But I didn't feel like I learned much that season. I feel like I got a good taste of what it was.
Hmm.
But then the real test comes after. Like, okay, so you went to school. What now? Keep learning. Then
Hmm.
I met you, and that's why I call you my mentor because I was literally training under you.
Yeah, that was exciting, man. I mean, like, and for those of you who don't know, like, I kind of like had my living room as like my little mock animation studio, and I felt like, well, hey, if I can just recreate that experience here, because in a lot of ways, the school that I had, done originally was inspired by another school called the Animation Academy. Charles and Billis had done in Burbank, and I remember I was doing a little bit of teaching for him, and I started thinking to myself like, man, I wish I had this, like back where I live, because I knew there was other people who love drawing, and soon after that I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna start, creating little classes and little stuff here and there, and then eventually, it just started getting bigger and bigger, and I ended up like getting to the point where like I was tired of like I used to rent space everywhere, to
Mm-hmm.
do classes, but I could never bring the equipment. I couldn't bring my animation desk, all the good stuff that I wanted to do. I just couldn't do it in someone else's space. So I'm like, I'm just gonna just do it in my living room because I do my freelance there anyway. Like, who cares, So having you guys there, and like you in particular, I remember, thinking to myself like, wow, like, CSUN has some pretty intense people, or people who are like very driven, to better themselves and to push themselves. I remember like you, Kristen, John Dunn, your brother Roger, of course, like all these people just really pushing themselves, to like do the best work that they could possibly do. I remember at the time too, you were just coming up with Prudencio, like one of my all-time favorite characters that you've ever done. Your own. Can you tell us more about that, like the birth of Prudencio and that property?
Yeah, he was supposed to be my college project, but it originally started with Ignacio and like a little imaginary
Oh yeah,
like
that's right, Ignacio, the little boy, right?
yeah, yeah, which he's a big fan favorite apparently. I don't know, he's so chunky, he's so cute. And like I mean all these characters are kind of like amalgamations of people that I know. Like I think Ignacio originally kind of was based off my brother when he was a kid.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I kind of added a little bit of John Dunn because apparently he was also he also kind of grew up as a chubby kid.
Yeah.
So he he tried voicing him a few times. And John's also half Salvadorian, so I guess he got it
He's
too.
a big guy too. He's like
So
6'2" or 6'3" or something. I mean,
yeah,
he's a
he's
big
pretty
dude.
yeah, he's a big guy. And no, he like I think all of us we were all so creative. So
Yeah.
like everyone has helped. Like now, I think like I'm still trying to make it something like a web comic because I'm like it's kind of crazy just like trying to get it started. I mean, sometimes like the mom took me a long time to design her. I think I'm now at a design that I love her in,
Whoa.
and I mean I think I posted some stuff. I can
Yeah.
get one of the books I did, and you could have some of the
Yeah, I was gonna
newer.
say I want to link stuff in the like when this, goes up, because I really do want people to get a chance to, especially like if you decide to like, launch it on Kickstarter or like, do, crowdfunding or something. I want people to know that like, they heard it here and saw it here first. This is the place where, great properties are born, especially now in today's climate. I don't mean to jump too far ahead, but now more than ever, sort of feels like those early days of Image Comics when like creators are like, hey, like, we've done work for the big major companies and corporations. Now let's do something for ourselves, and that same kind of like wild wild west spirit, I think is really like blowing up right now. I think in particular I really like a lot of the work coming out of Australia. I don't know, I think those guys are really um, pioneering, like this really like great raw animation. And I think also too their marketing, like one of my current students now, literally he's clicked into everything they create, like plush dolls, shirts, pins, like a whole merchandising empire. And they take that merchandising dollars and they pump it right back into their projects. And I think to myself, man, like how smart is that? That they've actually figured out a way how they can continue to like fund themselves, through their merchandising. So I thought that was always a really like smart thing. And in a way, hopefully like us here in America can start, adopting some of those things, with, everything that's going on. But not jumping too far ahead. So one place in particular, I think where you and me really like, got an opportunity to really kick things off too was a studio called Cosmic Toast, which a lot of people don't even like put in their resume either. I notice a lot of people don't even like have it in there. Um, I feel like I still had amazing time there. I think I came in, excuse me, a little bit. I want to say maybe a year or two before you had clicked up with them, because I
Yeah,
remember you were under a different regime of people that had taken over. Because in the beginning, I think it was a guy named David, who was like did something called Hey Wordy, And then there was two other guys that like were part of like the sort of live action. Andy Pagana and I can't remember the other guy's name, but
Kenny. Gage.
yeah, Kenny, that's right. Were you in their era at all in that before Deb got there? 'Cause I feel like
Yeah, I was there before Dev got there. 'Cause I
okay,
remember the first time I ever stepped foot in there was when you were there, and that was November of 2010.
that's right, 2010. Oh
And
my
I remember I
gosh.
met this guy, he being a big director at Disney, Alonso Ramirez.
Oh yes, that's right, big
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I didn't start there till August of 2011. August, if anything, August 31st, 2011. I
Yeah.
remember when I first started there. And I mean, the studio was what it was. I mean, I think a lot of for the most part, the studio was very work for hire projects. But it was like the talent that was there
Mm-hmm.
that you can't forget. Like
Can
some
you
people, a lot of the people in there went on to have like big careers in the bigger studio.
yourself included in that group. Can you describe the building though? Can you describe like what it was like pulling up to that building and like what did you see?
Which building? The Burbank one or
the
the Sherman Oaks?
the Burbank one, the OG. Well, a lot of people don't know, the
The
OG.
garage.
The girl. Oh, it was a old auto garage, if you
Yeah,
remember, flanked by
yeah.
what was on the either side of that? It was like very
One
loud.
was an empty parking lot, and the other one was like a dog. Like I thought it was like a dog pound or a dog rescue. I don't know, it smelled really bad walking through
I
there.
thought they were torturing animals because all you would hear is like howling and all day long. I'm like, dang, dude, like especially if you like. I had like an office. I think you were there too, like way in the back, of the studio, and you hear the dogs worse in the back. So it was so hard to concentrate unless you're like blasting your music, or doing something to drown out the noise. But
Wait, where were you? Because I'm trying to remember where you were. Were you in the shed or were you
okay,
in the?
I was so like I had left because like the deal was that like I think they initially hired me to do some stuff and then I was like, hey, like I'm not gonna be here very long, but I have, super talented people that I wanna just introduce you to so you can just kind of meet them and see the talent. Yourself, you were definitely one of the people and then another student called Karina Macbeth who went on to do boards for feature. Um,
Really?
yeah, yeah. Karina was actually from the South Bay, like where I was from too. And I started working with her when I think she was like maybe 12 or 13, like real young. Um, I was one of the only schools that would do that, like no portfolio, like just come right in and I'll work with you,
So, yeah.
but a lot of times they'd be like super young, and I'm like, hey, I can't go any younger than like 11 because I'm not gonna be able to like babysit or like if the kid's too young, this is way too intensive work that we're gonna be doing. But my favorite was students like you who are like college age, like super serious about what they're doing, great to work with, so. I remember I had left at some point and then went to work at a few different places. And I think I was actually going to work for Cartoon Network Atlanta. And I think you had talked to Mark or Deb or somebody over there, and they had. I think they're about to start. I think it was Twinkle Toes or like one of the Skechers productions
Mm.
or something. And I'm so happy you did because I really didn't
By the
want.
way, it was the Skechers shoes.
Yes, the light up Twinkle Toes shoes, which I still have, by the way. I still have a pair of the actual like the demo pair of the shoes or something. Like
Uh,
I kept them. I don't know why I kept them. It was so stupid, but um so you were working there and then like what happened? Like were you getting paid in the Kenny era or were they like not paying you guys? Like what was happening?
when I first started there, the first 3 months I wasn't, because I think that's when the studio was actually on that growth period,
Mm-hmm.
because they had acquired the Your Favorite Martians license. So I came in as an intern, but Annie on the first day, because like they needed a background designer on those music videos. So I think it's like one of those things where I kind of lucked out in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend what I did to for other people, but I just wanted to break it into animation. Like this is what I wanted to do. Also, for some reason, some people thought I was more experienced and that I had a friend named Rafael Hurtado
Uh-huh.
that I worked with that filmed Roman, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever met the guy. So everyone was coming up to me. It's like shaking my hand like I'm some kind of veteran. I'm like, I'm a 24, 25-year-old kid. This is my first day. And I think I impressed them so much on that first day that Kenny's like, hey, bud, if you keep this up, and because he had like Chicago accent, and if you
Yeah.
keep this up, 3 months down the line, I'm hiring. Like, I'm just trying to get that budget so I could hire you. And I'm like, yeah,
Which I heard was like super illegal. You can't like, have interns doing like, actual creative work. But, at the time, I kind of like tell people it's kind of like the old stories of like Termite Terrace from Warner Brothers, where it's like, the inmates had finally like, taken over the asylum, and it's just like such it was actually also a kind of, place where Cal Arts students, which if people don't know, Cal Arts is sort of like like the Harvard of like animation schools, I mean, it's like where all the top Pixar and like Disney people come from. And there was a lot of people that were coming straight out of Cal Arts. I know Giovanni Olivares was like, I think in his last year or was like a junior or something, and he didn't finish, and he's just like, I'm just gonna stay here, and just work. And I think, gosh, who is the head of animation? Why am I like blanking on his name right now? He's like he was the guy, the main dude. Crap.
Ryan?
He was one of them. Ryan Shaw was one of them, but was it
Andrew.
Andrew? Yeah.
She goes by Anise now.
Okay, got it. Yeah, like I remember that was like, and I want to say like Cal Arts people too. Like both of them were from Cal Arts as well.
Fun fact: my boss Miguel Gonzalez went to school with both Giovanni and Anise.
Oh wow! You see what I mean? Like, talk about a small.
You gotta get him. You gotta get him on the podcast.
Please do let them know, because like at this point in the podcast, this is like people I actually know. You know what I mean? Like I've yet to kind of like reach out further than like the people I've actually like kind of worked with or like met at some point in my career or something.
Right.
But absolutely, man. Like if you have people that would love to talk about animation, because this show was actually born out of LinkedIn, where 20 somethings are like messaging me on LinkedIn like pretty much every day, asking me questions. What was it like breaking in, or was it like this? And I'm like, I'm so tired of having the same conversations over and over. Why don't I just like create something where we can all talk and you can actually hear it from the real people, and say, hey, if I'm like coming out of college, like, what should I try and do? What about like my portfolio and, all these like really cool things that I think could be very helpful, to the next generation coming up. And also too, it's just great to see like people think like, oh, the biggest goal is like you get to animation, you get this great portfolio, you start making money. But to me, that's like half of it. The other half is like the friends you make, the people you know. I almost feel sorry for people who just watch the cartoons, just watch the finished product. Because I'm like, if you knew the people that did that, like it would be even greater to you, because you know these people, and
like you're missing out on the characters to create the characters.
Right?
Yeah.
One character in particular, at Cosmic Toast was Mark, man. Mark, I'm blanking on his Aguilar. What ex Air Force? Like he was like, oh my gosh, man, he was.
I
He,
would call him the nerd jock.
yeah, yeah, exactly. He had such a great voice too. I feel like he could have done radio or like something because I remember he had just such like a great speaking voice, you know. And I mean, super smart guy too. I mean, very talented in almost every area, right? I mean, like he could draw, he could animate, um, he
Yeah,
could do.
he's one of those that could do it all. He's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really saw that, like, because so I had left, and then when I came back, I noticed because I was in the big room, the big animators room, and then when I came back, I think I went to the shed for a while, you know, the sweat box, which for those of you who don't know, like that place had no windows. It was like a casino. You had no idea what time it is, you know, unless you looked at a watch or something. So it was just like you walk in there and like there's no sense of time anymore. You know, you're just in. You know what I mean? But it was a fun place because you could bring your dog to work. You could like, you know, like invite your friends to like kick back. Like it was very like chill. You know, I mean, I forget who was working the front desk. It might have been Ashley or
It was actually Odell.
yeah, and like they were super nice and you know they were like very chill and low key. Um, so you started you know off on the Kenny era, and then what happens? Like at some point, does Cosmic Toast like does it get bought or like what happened? Where like you know when I came back, it was a totally different ownership and totally different people.
It went through like three different buyers from like 2012 to
Wow,
2015. It went through a lot. I feel like some of the people that were there, like, do you remember Mike Hauser?
yes, yes, yeah, I do.
I feel like he was one of the people that helped the studio grow even after he left because
Hmm.
he had friends there, and he's the one that brought us because he was over at I think it was Splash Entertainment.
Oh, Splash, yes.
Yeah, and they had a small division, but they needed. He started. He's the one that got us in contact with the Loopsy brand.
Whoa, that was
So
through
that
him.
got us. Yeah,
Wow.
that got us a lot of work. We had like at least a year and a half worth of work after like the Your Favorite Martian and the Maker stuff. And that's when the studio was growing. We were getting the Skechers films, and they, like they
Yeah.
pretty much filled it up. It became technically more of an animation studio than a live action and like a small section of animators. Like I was really rooting for that studio to be more like,
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I mean, it was the first place you had, I mean, other than Cartoon Network, which, by the way, you were at Cartoon Network in the absolute like zenith of its power, you know, so you got to see that building in all its glory, which for a lot of people don't know, the building's closed now. And I visited maybe once or twice, and it was honestly, I liked it more than when I actually visited and worked at Disney, man. I thought like that building was so incredible. The vibe in Cartoon Network was just I mean that hallway where you take the back stairs and everyone has drawn on the walls and like literally you got like it's almost like those things where you see in like ancient Egypt, the hieroglyphs are like all sprawled everywhere, you know? I mean, it was just so I mean, it's so creative, man. Every like inch of that place was just so incredible. Um, I'm really jealous that you spent so much time there, man. Because I never worked for I got close. The closest I got was Atlanta, and
yeah.
you know that just wasn't going to be the right fit. But man, Cartoon Network in its heyday, man, that thing just like crushed, man.
The people you would run into too there. I think because one time I didn't even realize it was him. I think I was talking about UFC with Pendleton Ward, and then my buddy Ray's like, that was Pendleton Ward, right? The creator of
Whoa.
Adventure Time. I didn't even know it was him.
Because like Cartoon Network too was also like a big sort of like cartoon excuse me Cal Arts kind of like spot too like you notice like I mean Cal Arts being in California like a lot of those guys, I want to say they didn't even finish or graduate. They would literally just like, be doing their thing, and then they get either plucked, that they get plucked out of school, and or invent a show. And did you finish CSUN? You graduated and everything, right? Or
Yeah, no, I graduated. I
yeah.
mean, I wish I was one of those like if I got a job in college and I say sayonara, I don't need to come back anymore.
I remember too, you were like, when this was like early, like, you're working at Big Five and like, like hustling, trying to get yourself, going, and had a day job plus doing, internship stuff and going to school. And man, you were juggling a lot in your life. I mean, that was just, I remember thinking to myself, man, he's so young to be just like doing all this, but you were just had that laser focus that you were just gonna like go forward and like be successful, and not in like a douchey way where like some people are like, I'll step on whoever it takes to get to where I need to be, like that was the opposite of like you and Roger. And a lot of people don't know Roger was right alongside you at Cosmic. I remember I think I met Roger for the first time there, if I'm not mistaken. Like I don't think I met him at CSUN if I'm mistaken, but I think when I got to Cosmic again, Roger was like kind of by the front door, like you walk into the studio and like his desk was like, as you walk in or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think it was Roger and his buddy. I'm trying to remember who his friend was. Um,
There's two of them that are like super tight with him. There's Julio and then there's Eric Suhu.
yeah, Eric Suhu. Yeah, like Julio, who also went on to do like some crazy stuff at I want to say at
They're still
Nickelodeon.
working together. That's why they're like he couldn't do the podcast. He's been like busy. He's like working on a game and he's also working on Skibbity Toilet.
Wow, see, that's amazing, man.
Oh, he's like slammed right now.
Okay, there's one other, like, one of the greatest things to take away from my time at Cosmic. None of the projects, none of the other stuff. There was a like Google like text chat that was the funniest thing. Like it was literally like when I got invited to it, I could not believe like the stuff that you'd see in there. Like, we're like working on like characters and brands, but in the chat, like the characters are like completely getting like lampooned and made fun of. And, a lot of times, like if you fell asleep or you're tired, people take a picture of you and, drawing stuff all over. I mean, it was like such a hilarious Google chat. Still to this day, I have an email account still attached to it. And if I look in the pictures, I could see every picture that was ever put still to this day. And some days I literally just look through it, man, because I literally just like want to relive that time when it was just the most fun being at Cosmic Toe Studios.
Yeah, no, I remember. It was like the animators just like, because also back then on Google Chat, you were able to sketch on it.
Oh,
I think
yes.
that feature.
No, it's still around. I did it when I was at Sony on Good Times. There was like they've removed.
Oh, really?
They've moved it to like a slightly different thing, because I had a director who loved to use the sketch in Google.
Mm-hmm.
But the one you're talking about was even more fun because it was like very limited tools. So the drawings you did were even funnier because you didn't have fancy brushes or anything. So it was like very crude, but hilarious.
It was bad. I mean, it was hilarious. It was bad. I think a lot of the characters we worked on, I think the characters from Twinkle Toes, I think got it the worst.
So
like
it was
coming out of their nose.
So you had worked on La La Loopsy. That was one of the projects there, and then Favorite Martian, Twinkle Toes. You'd worked on that as well. Man, you were just hitting like almost everything that was coming through the door, pretty much.
Yeah, I remember there was even a Farmville Christmas special that I worked on there.
Oh my gosh. And the Christmas card, there's like every year we did like a Christmas like video thing where like, I feel like they like gave us 2 weeks or something of just like, you just get your normal salary, but you can just work on something that was just like a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays sort of theme. And I love that. I thought that was really like fun because I think that was something definitely that happened in the Deb era because I don't remember like doing that, in the Kenny era. Um,
No, Kenny era was very like fast paced. I think Deb
yeah.
wanted to run the studio like an actor because she had experience at running animation before, so she wanted us to be more creative.
Right,
It was
right.
the person that bought the studio
Oh my
that
gosh.
really like screwed everything up in 2015.
2015, like explain that because I know that like there's been so much like controversy, like people have like, said different things, but you were there. I believe I was there. What did you see? Like what happened? Like I remember they like had started this company. I think it's called Umbi or I forget the name of it. But
Yeah, it was some weird name. I can't remember
yeah.
what it was. 'Cause, I mean, that was like what, 11 years ago now?
Yeah, I mean it's a long time, but I remember like in particular they would visit the studio and they'd always have like two or three people with them and the people would always be like, "Oh yeah, this company's so great." Da da da, like they're always trying to like build up, who they were, because I had never heard of them before. I was just like, "Oh, okay, like I guess like, someone else is going to take over." Up until that point, I think like everybody was getting paid pretty frequently. Like your checks weren't really like late. There was a few little hiatuses I remember here and there, not too many. But everything was pretty much just like a normal, you work, you get, do your hours and you get paid.
Yeah, and I think it was around that 2014, like summer 2014 is I know when they had like the big layoffs because the people from Skechers had to rewrite the whole movie.
Oh
So
yeah.
they laid off like half of the studio and they only kept like the core, like classic like artists.
Yeah.
And then because I know Deb didn't want to let go of anybody, so that's why she slowly started trying to bring everybody back. Um, and then because I think they had lost money because the money was pulled out from the Skechers project,
Yeah.
Alan came in and bought the studio too. And we thought he was there to like help it and save it, which he really wasn't.
It wasn't. No. I think he
Yeah,
was
and the
I think you
uh
they call it sort of a vulture capitalist where people see like a company that's kind of like on its like it's kind of teetering whatever and they're like, "Hey, I can pick this up cheap and chop it up and do whatever with it," which happens all the time, but it just so happened like we all really love this studio, and it's like almost became like a family. And, when that happened, I remember it was so devastating to so many people, myself included, because I remember I came back after the big layoff of the big hiatus. And I think after that, once it got bought, I think I spent maybe 1 or 2 weeks at the new building, which it got relocated to. Was it
yeah,
Sherman Oaks or what? I'm thinking Sherman
it was
Oaks, right?
Sherman Oaks. I
Yeah.
remember it.
Oh my gosh. You remember the parking? You remember how bad parking was? I mean, oh my gosh. Like,
I mean, there's where the first big lie started because supposedly we were supposed to get parking at the Galleria.
oh, that's right.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. I
That
forgot
never
about that.
happened. We had to go out and look for parking on the street, and then some of the people in like because there was more parking in like the where like the houses were like the little like suburban area,
Right.
but they started getting mad that we were parking there.
Exactly. Because they're like, hey, we live here. You guys just work here. Like, you guys should have your own parking, which, if you work at any studio, parking's like everything, you go like to a very specific lot, you make sure like, you got your stuff set up. I had actually like stopped maybe 5 or 6 years into like the later half of like everything prior to COVID. I had stopped driving anywhere and literally like invested in like an e-bike and
Mhm.
my wife found a commuter bus and she's like, you could either take the commuter bus, the metro. Like in California, there's so many different like public transportation things you could take. If you're okay with not having a car or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't care. I was so tired of fighting traffic and all that sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, so the studio, I think was still picking up like a few projects and a few different things. I think they had worked really heavily on. I'm trying to remember the name of the project, but like everybody was working on it, and it like never went anywhere. Like it was like a pitch or something. Um,
What was it like? The one with the horse?
yeah, the horse thing. I can't remember the
Yeah.
name of it.
Arion, something like
Arion.
that.
Andy Sherman.
Yeah.
Andy Sherman's going to be on the show tomorrow, and I'm sure Andy Sherman's going to have a lot to say about Arion. Now, I'm glad you remembered the name because I'm like, I know it started with an A, but I couldn't
Yeah, they
remember.
put so much money into that. But the thing is, it's like,
Yeah, like nobody wanted it or something. They're just like, okay, thank you.
yeah, yeah. It was a weird thing. Like it looked nice, but I don't know if it was like really helping our cause or not.
No, it definitely
Yeah, but I
wasn't.
but I remember then they started laying off people slowly. Like, like when we moved to the Sherman Oaks building, you and some of the people that were there were some of the first to go. There was like this other older
Yeah,
grizzly guy there. I
yeah,
forgot what his name.
yeah. I think I sat next to him, and it pretty much was just like, I don't know, like I'd kind of like finished the Skechers project, and there really wasn't a lot, that I felt like was left, at least for me to do. I felt like I kind of like done what I was gonna do, and then at that point there was some other studios like Fox ADHD that was coming up, and I kind of was like, I'm gonna start putting some feelers out there slowly, and I felt like maybe it was the right time because I feel like after like I was gone, there started being like really like crazy things with like the pay. People weren't getting paid anymore, and people were getting like like waiting for their checks, and I mean it was just like the horror stories I heard were just like so crazy. And but the loyalty to the studio was amazing, because even like people not getting paid, which was like terrible, people were still loyal, to the studio and still coming in and working on stuff. And it's almost like hard to realize when something's like kind of like sinking, and it's like, did you stay on for a while after things started getting pretty bad?
Yeah, and then there was this week where I remember I looked around the building and I was like, why are we doing this?
Whoa.
Why are we like I look at everybody and everyone's like their pencils on the screen and I'm like, I think we should just go home. I told everybody like
Wow.
we got to go home. We can't because like and this was heading towards the holidays too, so it's like let's just take the vacation early because like we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna say I was like the one that started but I'm the one that I do remember that this one day is like I tell as Wolford used to sit next to me and I told him, dude, I think we gotta stop working. We ain't even getting paid.
Yeah.
But my brother tells me who like just stop
Just
drawing
stop.
because yeah, we're not getting paid. We're not being respected right now.
Exactly.
And then we confronted him and we told him we can't continue to work because we're not getting paid. We feel disrespected right now.
Exactly.
It's like we can't continue doing this.
Did he like try and smooth it over and be like, oh yeah, like I got you guys, like, it's just a little, hiccup here. We'll get it back on track. Like, was he trying to like keep you guys, like, was he trying to gaslight you guys?
The dude had like 10 different lies for every one of
Oh
them.
man. Jeez.
That's how bad it was. I mean, I'm not going to say that some of the way the studio was run was ever great because even in 2012, we went like a period where we weren't getting paid either.
Yeah.
But that's because they also had thrown in so much money into these like live action films that were gonna go nowhere.
Yeah.
So they took money from our budget and put it into that.
So, there was like kind of a history of like things going, a little south here and there, but it's a small studio, it
Yeah,
wasn't, you
it's
know,
like you get it, you get what you get there because it's like it's not union. Like for a lot of us, it was just a place to kind of like master our skills.
yeah.
Like because I know at some point I wanted to work at Nickelodeon or Disney or whatever. And I think that's what happened like the year after that. I ended up getting a job at DreamWorks TV, which,
Wow.
it was something. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't think I was good enough.
So
That's why I was
literally
like scared.
that day happens, you like, basically said, "Hey, like if you guys aren't going to pay us, we're going to walk." So that the sort of mass exodus happens. And at that point, had you already been applying to other places? Had you been looking to expand into, like you said, bigger studios? Like what was happening around that time?
I think after, because the studio officially shut down sometime in February of 2016. I think
Wow.
Dev had collected like enough money to pay the few people that were still on a project that didn't have anything to do with some of the projects that Alan had. I was laid off early in 2016, and I was like, "That's fine. I mean, there's no money anyway. I didn't care anymore."
Yeah. You're like, what are you gonna do to me?
Yeah, and I think I was a little worried because I'm like, I worked here for so long, and everyone that I mostly know in the industry is here. And I was kind of nervous. Like, I don't really know where to start. So I remember I think I started getting lunches with people, the few people that I knew,
Yeah.
like Jose Zelaya that you introduced me to.
Great guy. Really, really great guy.
He helped me out a lot. And I think it was sometime around the summer that I remember I had applied over at DreamWorks TV, but I didn't even know it was like they had like a television side. I just applied because I was like, well, I need a job.
Right, exactly.
And I want to continue to do this. And I remember this one day at the LA Zoo drawing, because I like to draw animals,
Nice.
because they're a good challenge. And I look at my phone, and I mean, I thought it was just a rejection, like email. But the weird thing is that it had a person's name, and I still remember this recruiter's name. Her name was Camille Leganza.
Whoa.
And she had asked me if I wanted to do some freelance for an unannounced project.
Wow.
And I was like, well, of course. But I was also nervous because she sent me the email pretty late in the day. So when I responded, I didn't hear back. I didn't hear back till Monday.
Oh my gosh.
Whole weekend, I was just like panicking. I couldn't sleep.
Like, did I lose it? Like, what? Like, I responded too late or what? Like, oh my gosh. You just must have been like, no sleep, just tossing and turning. Like, damn, my golden ticket. Here it was. And I just like, it just slipped out of my hand.
Yeah, but the good thing is that she got back to me on Monday, and then she put me in contact with another recruiter.
Wow.
Dang, I can't get out on her name right now.
I mean, it's been a few years, so I mean, I'm sure they know who they are.
Yeah. And for some strange reason, I asked to get an interview with the art director because I wanted to see what I'm going in. And she was able to set up an interview with the art director, so I met Peter Emery.
Wow.
And he sent me a test. Like I got to meet him, and he was really great. I love him.
Did you go to the studio? Like at this point, like this is all pre-COVID, so you actually got to go to the DreamWorks campus and like meet these people.
Yeah, even though it wasn't actually at campus, it was on Central in Glendale.
Oh, okay, got it.
right off the 134 on Central Street. It was
Nice.
the first building that you see is a big, tall building where it looks like it has a giant T.
Wow.
Um, I go to the second floor where one of the DreamWorks floors was, and I got to meet him and shows me what he wants and what if I could do it. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like, that's why I'm here because I know that I could do it.
Wow.
So he gives me a test, and I'm competing with someone that's from Cal Arts.
Oh,
And
wow.
this other person, it's a paid test too, so there's only like three people testing. And this other person who had worked with him prior, and he
Whoa.
had worked with Disney. So I was like,
You were competing with the
kind
big
of,
dogs, man. Like,
I was nervous. And I was like, but I think it was a drive because I was the first person to turn in anything. I finished it like in an hour or two, and
whoa.
it, and he liked it so much. He sent me one of the other backgrounds that was a test that I think the other person didn't complete, and he wanted me to complete it.
Whoa.
So I got paid for two backgrounds,
That's crazy.
and then I didn't hear from them for like about a week, and then I think it's Wednesday, October 5th. No, no, that Monday,
Okay.
I get a call from DreamWorks, and they ask if I wanted the job, and I'm like, well, yes.
Oh my gosh. At this point too, like, uh you must be like, I mean, it's a roller coaster, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
just, your previous studio had collapsed, like friends are out of work, everybody's just kind of scrambling, trying to figure out the next move. And it couldn't have been a better thing because literally this was like prepared you for your next chapter, the next chapter, which, working in it's almost like you're being scouted by the Dodgers, and they're like, hey, like we want to put you on, man. We want to put you on the roster. And I mean, what a feeling that must have been. Like you had set yourself on this goal, been through absolute hell. I mean, so many people think like, okay, I'm gonna go after a dream and it's gonna be easy and it's gonna be all like smiles and people opening doors. But I mean, you literally like had to climb Mount Everest to get to your goal, and all the while getting hit with like ice storms and avalanches, and you still kept standing. I mean, like, both you and me are fans of boxing and the UFC, and um, I think that's something I can definitely say about your character. I mean, a warrior, somebody who absolutely will do whatever it takes, to withstand whatever you're throwing at that person. Maybe now more than ever too. That spirit that's within you, um, was there since day one. By the way, like I want people to know that right now. That like even you as a student working for Big Five, you are still throwing bombs. I mean, you are absolutely like here to win. And I think that's just something that can't be taught or given to a person. I feel like it's just something that's deep within them, you know. Correct me if I'm
And
wrong, but
that's, I mean, I always tell even younger artists the way I came up in this industry, and mostly after I met you too, I was trained technically with a fighter's mindset. I mean, I had already kind of dabbled, even like outside of animation. I had already dabbled in. Because I took judo during my
oh,
community college.
nice.
Oh, oh, I had learned to know what it feels like to be humbled. I took boxing. I took wrestling like after because there was a gym right like in Burbank. Now it's a Korean barbecue place in
Oh,
Burbank, but it's a boxing gym.
whoa.
It used to be called Brooklyn Geos, and now it's Gyukaku.
Oh, wow.
So I remember I was like I remember I had growing pools here. I had sweated here. I had even had a bloody lip here once. So,
Wow.
and I think the one thing about combat sports, and the one thing that when I was before any of that, I used to be very sensitive to criticism.
Mm.
After that, I really wasn't because I'm like, well, I've been humbled before. I've tapped out before. I've gotten my ass kicked in gyms. It doesn't make you better or worse. If anything, it makes you human
Wow.
because you understand that in life you don't always win, and that's not a bad thing. It's it gives you that opportunity to look for that next fight and gives you the opportunity to I'll fight another day. I just come better prepared for it. Like every day is a fight for me, but that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of boxing. That's the beauty of MMA. Losing is only part of winning.
Wow.
That's why, like, I know right now there's a lot of people that are scared, and it's understandable. But the worst to me are the like kind of like the doomers and very negative people. Oh, like the
Mm.
industry done for. It's never coming back. Kids aren't watching TV. Oh, I'm like, well, all that is true. We're going through an evolution period, and we just got to learn to adapt. But it's also a good time to explore what you can do. Fall
Mm-hmm.
in love with it. Know why you came in here to begin with. Like the money comes eventually, but it's not gonna come here if you're just gonna be like complaining and whining that you're not getting your way any.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like take the hits. You got to take the hits in life.
You know, I talk to a lot of people on this podcast, and one thing I always kind of like hear over and over again is like right before I got into the industry and got, my dream, so to speak, their backs up against the wall, they're absolutely like, going through a lot, like it's not great situations, it's not like, hey, I'm sitting on, $8 million or something, like people are like fighting, and I thought to myself, like, in today's landscape, where was it ever written that we're gonna stop fighting, or where was it ever
Yeah,
written that, oh, it's just gonna be easy for, and believe me, like, I think you and me were very, very lucky to be in, sort of a golden age of, TV animation where, like, yeah, we had like project after project, like studio after studio, which, today maybe a lot of these, students don't have that same opportunity. But it was always going to be a struggle. It was always going to be a fight. Like, it was never going to just lay down for us and say, okay, like, you can do whatever. You're going to have to like earn this. You're going to have to prove it over and over again, almost like a fighter, having to hold on, achieving the belt and then now having to defend the belt, in a way. And it is kind of, for me especially, like 2023 was like a really like big turning point for me, because up until then, projects just like fell into my lap. I didn't have to test anymore. I kind of started to feel like good about myself. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I could kind of just, do my thing, make my money, work on my project, and, jump on to the next thing, And when
right.
things started to slow down a bit, I'm just like, oh, whoa, like what's happening? First you feel isolated. You feel like, oh, I'm the only one this is happening to, like I must have done something wrong or pissed somebody off, which, me, I'm good at pissing people off, but, you know,
I feel like I'm probably the
we're pretty stubborn people, I think, and that's at
yeah.
the root of us, but, yeah, I think like, as things started to happen, it's absolutely, something that you brought up earlier, being humbled, and I feel like 2023 humbled me in a very big way where I felt like, wow, like I stopped, being appreciative of things and I started feeling like entitled to them. And I started
Mhm,
seeing a lot of like toxic traits within myself that
mhm.
I feel like life itself was trying to weed out of me. Like, hey, don't go that path, don't feel like everything is just owed to you, you know. This is still a gift. This is still something that's a blessing, you know. But things change, you know, things evolve. And I feel like now life itself is asking new things of us, you know, asking us to be more involved, you know, in our work. And, you know, almost going back to those early comic days where it's like, you know, I think for both of us, we always looked at comics, you know, and comics is like you're doing it all. You're writing, you're drawing. I mean, you're literally almost every department. So the fact that like we're going kind of back to those early roots, you know, to you know, do comics or, you know, any of that sort of stuff, I think it's really very like poetic, you know, in a way. Um, but I do feel, yeah, man, like the fight is never going to end. You know, obviously, like there's new advancements in technology and AI and all this sort of stuff. I mean, for me personally, like, you know, I don't feel like I need to be afraid of everything, you know, and everything's gonna be like, oh, it's gonna crush us and all this sort of stuff. Things are definitely different, but I feel like if I am not evolving and finding new ways to like be creative, um, like that's what we are always good at. We are always good at finding ways to be creative within our circumstances, you know, where, like I said, I was washing cars before working in animation. You know what I mean? Like you were working at Big Five, like there was like literally the world against us, you know, like there was nothing like that was gonna say, yeah, you're gonna have a future in animation or your dream. But we didn't care. We're like, I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna, you know, we're just crazy enough to say like it just might work. What if somebody says yes? You know?
I mean, I've always been, been stubborn and a contrarian. Always been kind of on the rebellious side. So I was never gonna do something that it's like.
Oh my gosh. So DreamWorks happens. You then do you move right on to Nickelodeon after that? Like another big dream of yours? Like was that something? Um,
I mean, it took a few months because I remember after that I was like doing some small freelance stuff. Um, and I remember I think it was sometime around my birthday in June of 2019, and I really wanted to get back into the studio life. I was like,
wow.
uh, I feel like something in the next 3 weeks is gonna happen.
Whoa.
I get to that Thursday of that third week that I had projected in my mind, and I reach out to my line producer. His name is Eric Vesbin, and he was working at Titmouse. He was working on a feature. It was called Arlo the Alligator Boy,
Oh, nice.
Netflix. And I reached out to him, and he's got like freelance for like a week. And I meet the art director. Um, I forgot what his. I know his name is Israel, but I can't remember what his last name was. I know he's Latino.
Got it.
And I do like a week's worth of work. But the funny thing is that that same day that I reached out to Eric, my buddy Javier, who was working on Casagrandes, calls me and he's like, "What a fool! Like, what you doing?" Yeah, that's the way that fool talks to me. And I'm like,
That is
nothing,
him.
just
That is him.
yeah. I'm just like drawing here. I was like, well, heads up, fool, because two of our background designers are leaving Casa,
Whoa.
and like Nick and I already put in a good word to Miguel for you,
Dang.
and like just expect like a test tomorrow morning, and I get the test, and I remember after that call, I told my brother, that's my spot,
Nice. Wow.
and then I take the test,
Wow.
turn it in. I was a little worried because they didn't get back to me for like about, I think it was less than a week. I think I was like just like panicking. And then they called me for an interview. And
Whoa.
after the interview, which is in person, it's like four different people. I sounded very confident. I didn't feel nervous at all because like in my
Wow.
heart, that was my spot. Like my friend Stephanie Pacina, who she was a production manager on the show. I'm waiting outside the office, and she's like, "How would you like to be part of the team?" And I'm like, "Well, that's why I came
Wow.
here."
And it's incredible how like you knew something was gonna happen, like you just had
Yeah,
a angel whisper in your ear and say, you know what, like this is gonna happen for you, and that's a beautiful thing because like I feel so many people give up on themselves. So many people say like, if it's not going my way or it's not happening the way I want it to happen, um, that's it. I need to pack up my stuff and leave. But um, it's just really incredible. And for a lot of people who don't know, testing is like auditioning, for a movie role, and like a lot of times, they're not paid. Sometimes they are paid. For the most part, if it's a union studio, they're paid pretty much. But it's a very kind of nerve-wracking thing because you're like, oh my gosh, I have tons of experience. I've worked for, you've worked for DreamWorks, and you're like, why do I need to keep testing? But
yeah,
sometimes it's just part of it. So it's good that you
yeah.
stay positive through the whole process and you're not like questioning it like, who are they to ask me to test or, yada, yada, but you're always staying humble and saying, I just want to be part of this team. I know I can do a great job. And I feel like so many people need to hear that, like I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, and after that, I mean, there was one year that was kind of crazy because we go into, and I was only at the studio, not even here, because then COVID happened.
Oh my gosh.
And
COVID.
a week before, we
Wow.
were celebrating because we had just gotten season three.
Oh my gosh. So you're literally like the whole world's about to change, which a lot of people don't know today's landscape was kind of like starting to happen in the COVID era, which, I mean, everybody was home, everybody was watching, tons of TV. Um, I feel like there was too much work out there. There was so many shows staffing up,
Yeah.
and I remember having to like turn some stuff down. I don't know if that was your experience too, but
Yeah, I had to turn some stuff down at some point too because I was like, I'm already slammed.
yeah, I mean, like I got way too much going on. There's like way too many things, but it was great because, like I said, it's just like your dream. You're in high demand. People are loving animation. People are still loving animation, by the way. Like I don't know what they're talking about. People are still eating up
I
shows.
just feel like when people say, "Oh, kids aren't watching cartoons," I'm like, "Well, there's no cartoons that are new right now, really." But I mean, if that was the case, why does Spidey and his amazing friends already reached about 100 episodes for a baby?
Exactly. I mean, my daughter, who's 2.5, she'll be turning 3 this year. She's got shows that she loves. She watches a lot of stuff on YouTube. So it's more like creator based stuff. But she's watching all the classics. I mean, like, I feel it's like a rite of passage. When you're a kid, to see something that's so amazing and fantastic and, in a way, it's like people are like, oh, you're just going to grow out of that, and you're going to be an adult and, work an adult job and all this. But I felt like as an adult, it increased, I'm like, man, I want to do this. I want to be part of this magical, sort of factory of cartoon makers. Um, so Casagrandes happens. Incredible show, by the way. I really like can't tell you how impressed, I am with that show. Um, and COVID's happening, all those things are going down. Did you ever like sort of see a little bit of a slowdown post COVID, like work wise, like, or did you feel like you had worked pretty steadily, like into the next few years?
I think my slowdown happened around 2023 because I mean, even when I was on Casa, I mean, I'll say it now because it's already passed. I was working for two studios at one point.
Oh my gosh.
I was working. I did like the boys. Had an animated show on Amazon. It was done through Titmouse. It was called The Boys Diabolical.
Okay.
I worked on 2 episodes while I was working on Casagrandes.
Wow.
And I remember that month. I don't know how I got sleep because I remember I was doing my friend's like weight loss course. So I was like cooking my own food and not everything. I have 2 projects. My friend's rat, because he has a pet rat, like
Got
gets sick, take it to the vet. So like picked up his Casa episodes to me. And I'm like
Wow.
thinking, I don't know how I got like sleep May of 2021 because that was the
Jeez.
impossible. But it was some of the most money I had ever made in my life that month. I
Nice.
was like,
Well
God,
deserved too. Well deserved.
yeah, and I think like we found out we were not getting renewed. I think August of 2021, and remember it kind of stung a little.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a lot of work going on. But I think it was towards the end of 2021 where I started getting nervous because and like one of my friends had been let go from Casa and he still hadn't found work.
Oh jeez.
So, and then every time we spoke to the recruiters, they're like, we're just waiting on green lights on some of these projects. But thankfully, I think I kind of lucked out in 2022 where I didn't even know I think I had made that much money until like my taxes came.
Oh,
Because I was doing
nice.
a lot of like freelance on Loud House.
Wow.
And,
Another great show.
and I did some like early biz dev stuff for that show Rock Paper Scissors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and later that around the summer, actually it was like a few days after my birthday, I had gotten hired by Netflix. And I was worried because Netflix like a month prior had canceled like 20 different shows.
Yeah. I mean,
But
now
Exploding
they own
Kittens,
everything, by the way, right? They own all the Warner Brothers library, and which I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's, I don't. I'm kind of like up in the air about it, but
and we'll get to that. We
yeah.
definitely got to talk about that a little. But yeah, I'm on Exploding Kittens. And originally, I think I was only supposed to be there till November of 2022, but they extended me till December. So I got a
Wow.
month extra out of it. And I remember when I started there, they were like, our projects run short, but we have so many projects that you shouldn't even worry about because we'll find you something. And then I find out they cancel everything. And I'm like,
Oh
oh
no, it
man,
was
I'm
just
like,
like pulled the rug right underneath from you.
yeah. And I was like, sad. Oh, man. Yeah, because then after that, 2023, like I think I did like I was like doing some crunch work on Grimsburg because they had reached out to me. I had worked on, I think, some more Loud House stuff, and I think the Casagrandes movie needed me for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And
So,
then like the last thing I remember working in 2023 um was a short film on the war in El Salvador, and it won a bunch of like awards.
oh, nice.
Yeah, it's directed by Pablo. Why am I blanking out on his last? Um,
we could
oh,
we could add it
huh?
back in, unless you want to look it up real quick and
Yeah, I'll look it up real quick because I just feel like it's disrespectful not to know his name. You know?
Yeah, especially too, with like you said earlier, like that's your country of origin, and you want to, pay as much respect
Pablo
to.
Leon. Pablo Leon.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah. So, and I got to help on that, paint some backgrounds. 2024. was kind of a weird year. I think most of what I did in 2024 was actually I was working at MGA for a while.
Oh, right. Which, you know, for a lot of people that don't know, I mean, MGA, like, gosh, they're kind of like, I don't want to say like a smaller studio, but they're, you know, they're kind of like, you know, I don't want to say like, because you know there's such thing as like union studios, which are like the big Disney, you know, Netflix, and you know the bigger, you know, ones, and then there's like non-union work, which is like slightly smaller kind of art house studios. Renegade is like definitely one that, you know, I was associated with and I liked a lot. um,
I mean, MGA is technically more of a toy company because I was in there and it's
that's
like
right, that's right.
they have thread and like doll heads all over the place.
That's right. MG, yeah, they're definitely like toys and um, yeah, I remember they were like, you know, was Splash like that too, or Splash wasn't toys? Maybe
No, Splash was like associated with them, but
okay.
I don't know what
Maybe I'm
Splash
thinking of
is.
Spin Masters or something like that. But um, so you went from like having like, you know, tons of work to like, you know, things slowly starting to kind of wind, you know, a little bit slower and kind of. So at that point, like, do you start thinking like, okay, you know, things are slowing down over here. Like now, should I start shifting to, you know, other stuff, or like at this point, you're just kind of like thinking to yourself like, I need to just wait this out and, you know, see what, you know, see what else happens. Like what's your thoughts as things start moving toward, you know, 2024, 2025?
2025 was definitely my weakest year in that. I mean, the craziest thing that happened is that I almost got hired by Disney for two different positions.
Oh, wow.
One was illustration manager that I was third in line, but they only interviewed the two people that were
Ah,
before me. I mean, they interviewed me, like the recruiter interviewed me, but they
okay.
didn't review past but I was like their third choice.
Wow.
So, and then that was February of last year. And then in April, I get hit up by Disney TV for backgrounds for, I mean, I think it's out now. I think it's called Chiviverse. It's
Okay.
on Disney Plus. And I got interviewed for that. And I went as far as the second interview
You're like,
with like the art director. And I thought in my heart, I was like, this is when I get it. And
yeah.
it hasn't happened yet. Like I think Disney's that big studio. I think probably the last one that I'm really missing. So I'm like,
It's good. I
now
think,
it's an objective now. So I think
yeah.
that's go.
And for those who don't know, when Jose has an objective, he gets that objective done. You know, like if there's something you want, you absolutely will continue to push forward, you know, no matter what the costs are. Um, but I think around that time too, like, do you start thinking about like, okay, can I do like, you know, personal projects? You know, is there other stuff that I've wanted to do, but I didn't have the time? Like, did you feel like you like are starting to kind of open up to doing more stuff for yourself?
I mean, I think I tried last year. I don't know, but I feel like last year I wasn't as inspired because I know last year was definitely the year that I had the less output artistically.
Oh, wow.
I think one of my bigger hits when it comes to because there were two posts that because the post that got me almost a job at Disney was a Mayan temple that's supposed
Oh,
to be like a
yeah.
gateway to
Beautiful.
Chivago, which is under the Mayan underworld. And
Wow.
the art director told me that was the piece that caught his eye. And then towards the end of the year, I did one that's based on the Valley Plaza here in North Hollywood.
Oh, got it. Right.
Yeah. And I remember I wanted to draw more, but towards the end of the year, I got pneumonia. So I had a cough
Oh,
that lasted from November 1st. And
jeez.
I still kind of have it, but I already have like the pneumonia cleared.
Wow. Thank God, by the way. You know, that is some scary stuff. Pneumonia is no joke, man. Really,
Yeah.
really
So
powerful. Well, luckily, you know,
2025. was not my ear.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and when life hits, man, life hits hard, like it doesn't hold
Yeah,
back, and I think again, like I said, just your resilience and your warrior spirit, man, has just shined through, probably some of the darkest times that the animation industry has seen in a long time. But I truly feel like things have to get worse before they get better. That old adage, like it's always darkest before the dawn. Nothing lasts forever, even the bad times.
yeah,
It
exactly.
always has to be a back and forth. You take the good with the bad. And um, I think again, like I said, I've learned more in these past years. Being challenged, to find different types of projects to be associated with. But I feel like there's things like, especially like this podcast that kind of finds you, and I think LinkedIn especially is a place that at first when people were saying, "Oh, do you have a LinkedIn?" I'm like, "What is that?" They're like, "Oh, it's like a place where you put your resume." And again, I remember looking at it and thinking, "Gosh, this is so ugly. This website, it's just so boring. It's like business people and they're talking about stocks and stuff that I have no interest in." And then
Yeah,
suddenly it started to evolve into like, okay, like my feed, I'm seeing art. I'm seeing, people creating and able to, like put themselves out there like, "Hey, I'm looking for work and hey, I'm, wanting to do X, Y, and Z." And it
I've had
just
Disney recruiters. I think in 2022, a Disney recruiter had reached out to me. No, it was early 2024. Also,
oh, okay.
had reached out to me from LinkedIn on just a regular chat.
I mean, and look at that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's so incredible to think like I said, I looked at Instagram and I looked at like, Twitter and like all these things as like the mecca of like, okay, this is where artists belong and this is where, the opportunities are going to be. Um, and for me personally, I think like LinkedIn has been one of those websites that have just like, and I'm not sponsored by them, so, not trying to, boast them up like that, but I think they definitely have done a pretty interesting job, attracting talent, attracting people, and kind of creating a platform where we can like express ourselves, but still also have a professional kind of sheen to what we're presenting and how our page looks. Um, and I love how you can endorse people and you can actually kind of look at their history and look at like who they are. Um, it to me, like I said, it's really done a lot. I've seen a lot of websites, kind of come and go, and I really feel like LinkedIn in particular. This show would not exist without LinkedIn, without like my DMs becoming something that was. At first, I was like, okay, great. I'm happy. Like 20 somethings are reaching out, and they want to talk and ask questions. It's almost like they treat it like a year-round like Lightbox or CTN, where it's like they have access to different people in the industry, and
Yeah,
uh, and I applaud them for that too because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You need to voice what you want to do, and you need to tell people what you want to do, and I think, like I said, just having those same conversations was like getting repetitive, and I'm like, well, instead of me telling you this, like hear it from the actual people, like look at the people that I look up to, like yourself and like Chris Battle, and there's many more coming too that I really admire and respect. So you know, again, I'm just so happy that you took the time to do this, Jose. Like I said, I value our friendship, so much because, like I said, I feel like people who've seen your artwork and probably have grown up on your stuff have no idea that the person who created it is just so much more than just cartoons. There's so many more aspects to your personality and who you are and your brother as well, Roger. That I truly cherish, man. I really feel like people need to see that other side of you, just a humble person, someone who's so good to his friends. I think that's something I've always admired about you. Anytime you were somewhere, you always would find like who's out of work or like who's looking for something, and you'd always like scoop them up, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
take care of people, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you never like ask for anything in return, I'm like, damn, like this guy is so giving to people. And I feel like that's where like you've been so blessed, because I feel like a person that has a good heart, has a good soul inside, is always looking to bring somebody else up. And I love how you said too, having a positive attitude is so vital. Please don't let me take, the words out of your mouth. What do you feel about a positive attitude, especially like today? Like, what could you say to the people out there who are going through a very tough time right now and feeling like hopeless?
I mean, it is understandable because it's like you can't be happy all the time. And I know, especially right now, just like the world is kind of like in a dark place. But like you mentioned earlier, even the bad times pass. And we've all gone through something bad. And I know there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes, I mean, and I know it sounds cheesy, but I've gone through some really hard times in my life. I always feel like I probably should have never been able to have broken in this industry because of how poor I grew up. And I didn't even know anything going into this. Like my parents didn't stop me because they didn't know anything about it. Otherwise, they would have been like, no, that's not a career. But because they didn't know anything about it, it's like the reason why I continue to pursue it. And also because I'm a little crazy and I like to kind of always like challenge. Like, I mean, I'm the same guy that learned how to play a guitar because I wanted to learn. I learned how to skateboard when I was younger because I saw other kids do it. I was like, why can't I do it?
Wow.
I've always kind of been that one kid that wanted to do what everyone else was doing.
And it's incredible too because you would pick something up and you would far surpass everyone. I mean, that's something I think too that a lot of people don't realize, that the people working in the industry, are some of the most driven people. These are not people that you have to micromanage. These are not people that you have to be on top of all the time. If anything, you have to like tell them, hey, don't be so hard on yourself, because they have a tendency to be very, very hard on themselves. And a lot of times that can also, hurt them, but I feel like I said, with you in particular, you've always been that same person, since the first day I met you, very genuine, cares about his friends, cares about the people around him. And I think, again, like I said, those virtues far surpassed your great achievements in art and animation, which are amazing, but they're such a small part of who you are, so I'm really happy that people will get this little glimpse into, the actual person behind this stuff. And I'll definitely be sharing some of the links, with everyone. So if any of you haven't seen Jose D. Hernandez's work, please take this opportunity to check it out because it's truly some special stuff to see. Jose, thank you so much, man, for doing this. Please give all my love to your family, to your brother, to you. I'm so happy. Like I said, we got to do this more often. Next time I'm in LA, in the Valley, man, we got to click up.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
I do plan to do Lightbox this year if I could get in.
Oh, nice. I've never gotten in. I've applied so many times, and I'm chopped liver to them. But it's a great show. I'm gonna try and go next year for sure. I think that'd be a great thing to say hi to everybody and